I don't care whose son you are. This is a gated community, and your kind brings down property values. That was the first thing I heard, as I looked up from the garage, a wrench still in my hand. Imagine that 35 years in law enforcement, the last 8 of them as chief of police, and now in my so-called golden years, I'm hearing some wannabe HOA cop spitting venom at my boy just for walking home. Retirement was supposed to be iced tea on the porch, and watching my kid grow into himself, not reliving the ugliest parts of the job I thought I'd left behind. It was one of those perfect spring afternoons, sun-warm breeze, cool neighbors trimming their hedges. My son, 17, tall and lanky head full of art and music, was making his way home from summer school. He had on his favorite band shirt, the cut-off jean shorts he called his signature-style headphones, in minding his own business. He was a block from our house on a sidewalk he'd walked hundreds of times when she appeared. A golf cart screeched to a stop across his path, yellow light flashing like a discount cop car. Out steps a woman in a powder-blue polyester uniform that looked like it was fighting for its life against her hips, a plastic badge pinned to her chest. She planted herself in front of him like she was Wyatt Earp. I could only hear fragments, at first her voice sharp, his confused. He pulled off his headphones, polite as ever, trying to explain, "Ma'am, I live right there. That's my house, my dad's in the garage." He pointed down the street to me, visible from where they stood. But this woman wasn't interested in reason. She had power in her pocket, plastic authority fake, but enough to fuel her prejudice. I heard words like loitering, suspicious, your kind, not welcome on this side of the gate. My stomach turned cold. I started walking slow, deliberate. You don't rush in those moments, you just move steady. Let your presence do the work. Then I saw her hand. She reached down to her belt, and my heart thudded. Cheap radio flashlight and, yes, handcuffs. Real metal cuffs. My son shifted to walk around, trying to defuse the situation. That's when she screeched, "You're resisting, you're under arrest." Before he could even process it, one cuff clicked around his wrist. I was 50 feet away and closing, but hearing that snap felt like a gunshot in my chest. My boy, gentle, respectful, never been in a fight in his life, was standing there in cuffs because of the color of his skin. I stopped right behind him, crossed my arms, and let my shadow fall over her. She looked up, faltered for half a second, then doubled down, declaring it official HOA business. She grabbed his other arm, fumbling for the second cuff. That's when I dropped the calmest, coldest line I could manage. "Take your hands off my son." She sneered, threatened to arrest me too. She rattled off TV cop jargon, trespassing, loitering, resisting. I kept my voice even. This is a public sidewalk. He cannot trespass. He cannot loiter walking straight to his home. And resisting what your unlawful order. Her eyes flickered, but she didn't let go. So I pulled out my wallet, flipped to my old ID. Not my badge, retirement had taken that, but the card that still carried weight, retired chief of police. For 35 years I was the law in this city. The officers you're about to meet, I trained them. I called 911 the second you stepped out of that golf cart. Take the cuffs off. Now. It was like watching a balloon deflate. Her face went pale, hands shaking as she fumbled for the key. By the time she unlocked him, a cruiser rolled up, 2 officers stepping out, one a rookie, the other. Sergeant Clarence, a man I'd promoted myself years back. He took one look, recognized me, then looked at my son, rubbing his wrist. His jaw tightened. Barb, that's what I'll call her, was questioned rights, red cuffs collected as evidence. Her authority evaporated the second real police showed up. She left that street not as an officer, but as a suspect. But the damage was done. Back at home, my wife broke down when she saw the red mark on our boy's wrist. He held it in all day, but in her arms the tears came heavy and silent. That's the thing, scars on the skin fade, but scars on the soul, those cut deeper. That night our phone rang off the hook. Neighbors whispering what they saw, some offering support. Others warning us, be careful. The HOA president doesn't like waves. And then around 9 there was a knock at the door. Mr. Abernathy, the president himself, stood there in khakis, and a golf shirt, smile stretched tight. He called it an unfortunate incident. He said Barb would be spoken to. He wanted it all swept under the rug. When I told him the police were handling it, the mask slipped, his voice dropped, threats veiled as neighborly advice. Dragging this through the courts will be unpleasant for everyone. He walked away, leaving me with his business card. I tore it into shreds. He thought he was scaring me. What he'd really done was declare war. The next days were heavy. My son barely left his room, blaming himself for not fighting back. I sat him down, told him a story I hadn't shared in decades, how as a rookie cop, 2 white officers pulled me over, threw me on the hood, until they realized I was one of them. For 10 minutes I wasn't a cop. I was just a black man in the wrong place. I told him he had done the strongest thing. He stayed calm. Survival is a victory. And then I told him what we were going to do next, fight back. Not with fists, but with facts, law, and community. So I started digging. Requested financials, board minutes, the security contract. They stonewalled, sent useless summaries. That's fine. I hired a PI friend who lived for this kind of hunt. Meanwhile, I walked the neighborhood quietly talking to folks. Stories poured out. Barb harassed an Indian family during dinners, spotlighting their windows. She followed teens home, threatened an old man with towing his car from his own driveway. It was a pattern, racism and power trips wrapped in a polyester uniform. And then the PI came back with gold. Abernathy had shell companies everywhere. Landscaping owned by his brother-in-law. Pool service under his wife's maiden name. And that $10,000 monthly security contract paid to a company called Abernathy Secure Solutions. Sole proprietor Abernathy himself. He had created a fake police force with Barb as the face and paid himself handsomely to terrorize the community. I confronted him one Saturday morning at his mansion. Tennis whites, racket in hand, arrogance in his smile. I showed him the folder. He brushed it off with condescension, talked about protecting our investments, and you people not respecting the rules. When I accused him of fraud, his face turned red, voice low and venomous. I'll bury you in legal fees. I'll make you regret the day you moved here. I didn't blink. No, Abernathy. Even kings answer to the law. And I'll enjoy watching you try. The retaliation came fast. Fines for a garden hose, crabgrass, a basketball hoop an inch off. Petty but obvious. What he didn't count on was how it would backfire. Neighbors noticed, remembered their own run-ins. Whispers grew into meetings. We gathered in my living room, an Indian family, a retired accountant named Sarah, a young lawyer more and more each week. We built a resistance. My son, finally channeling his hurt into purpose, built us a website, designed flyers, became our digital strategist. We gathered stories, evidence, everything. And then we hired Miss Chenna Firebrand, civil rights attorney, who saw this not just as a case, but a crusade. We sued Barb for assault and false imprisonment, the HOA and Abernathy for fraud, negligence, and discrimination. Barb's deposition was brutal. Under oath, she admitted she had no training, no authority, that she cuffed my son because of how he looked. Ms. Chen dismantled her piece by piece until even her lawyer looked ready to crawl under the table. Then came Bob, a nervous board member, who flipped, sliding me a flash drive full of unedited minutes, shady financial